point I have is that from what we've been fed in terms of what is it, STY's Telegram at this point, and their results for the last.
I love the way we're just on the end of some fucked up clout gobbling human centipede, where we're at the back in English, like, please, has anyone mistranslated a Telegram message? I need those Telegram messages. Like, and it's half of it's just shite as well. Like, it's not even true half the time. We're all just here like, oh my god, have you read the newspaper? AKA CS _ again. What even is this? Like, what have I been reduced to?
I know. But
apparently everything's happening on Telegram, and I'm just here on WhatsApp like a boomer. Great, brilliant.
No, we're just here on Twitter. We're just watching the official broadcast.
No, because the worst thing is now we became the boomer Maui. We're the people who think we're sending someone a new Instagram, but it's just a TikTok refried from 2 weeks ago. But we're a boomer, so we're on Instagram, so we're getting it from an Instagram Reels instead. Is the analogy?
You actually look in the corner closely enough, and it is a TikTok with the watermark right there. Yeah, exactly. It's just too much. It's too much. Yeah, but I mean, I feel like so my ugly point is just it's the ENCE collapse that we are witnessing. The fact that they didn't make it to the RMR even through the closed qualifier. The fact that they are with Glaive. If you look at total matches that they've won or the maps that they've won since he's joined with the top 30 filter. I'm not even doing online land. Okay. They've won 36.6% of maps with Glaive. Like this is since he joined the team. Like
this is even when it was the original lineup doing the early success with the Polish team.
Yes,
right.
Yes, 36.6%. Even this was with the remnants of like nerds and modern and everything like that.
Yeah, they played the Elisa tournament with those guys.
Yeah, exactly. He has just they've won less than 40% of maps when you have a top 30 filter on. Like, and even without the top 30 filter on, it's 40.8%. Like, it doesn't really get that much better. So it has been really bad to watch this ENCE with Glaive, and I feel like there's a little bit of empathy that I have for Glaive. Like, his team has changed multiple times. The very beginning, Modern, Nerds, I felt like Sun Pius, all of them probably knew at that point, or they had a very good idea that they were going to be going elsewhere. Yes. So they probably didn't just dive headfirst into the Glaive structure, Glaive system. But then he got that Polish roster with Deha, with Kylar, Goofy, all of them, Hades, and they had that single Katowice run. They had one run that was decent, and they also made it to the major, but they bombed out of that major terribly badly. And then but since then they've had to now try to make this work with STY, with Potty, and it's just been disaster after disaster. They're right now on a 5 series losing streak. If you even look at top 30 teams, like they're barely winning versus everybody. Sure, they might take a map off them here and there at best, but the last top team they've beaten has been Fnatic, and that was in May. The last BO3 that they won with the top 30 filter was Fnatic in May. Like, this team is not beating anybody at this point. They are strictly speaking just all worse than like any team that's. I don't know a single partner team that's actually worse than them right now. Like that's where I'm at right now. I don't know any partner teams that are performing worse than them day to day, and I feel like this team right now it just feels bad because ENCE were before such a roster that was it was almost like how we're talking about Mouse today. Like a team that looked like they were doing everything right. They were finding all these gems in the rough that they were or the diamonds in the rough. That way the Alexi lineup was obviously very good. It had its hiccup. I mean, it had some problems after they kicked Alexi, but then they rebuilt with Snappy. They started punching above their weight once again. And I feel like this rebuild has just been disastrous. And at this point, I feel like I was a little bit concerned when everybody was leaving Glaive and they weren't winning. They had a horrible 5v4 percentage with him at the helm. And at this point, it's just like the one consistent factor with this team has just been Glaive now. Like this team has just been like Glaive has unfortunately not regained his bearings in Tier 1 Counter-Strike as an in-game leader. And if we're so frequently going to forgive IGLs for having a bad rating, but you have a good amount of victories, like you have an above 50% map win percentage, well, then you have to say the same thing when you're on the losing end here. And I know Glaive's storied. I know he's a legend. And I feel like right now, this is unfortunately hurting his legacy quite a bit as a leader, because it's clear that where Kerrigan gets to rise up in that GOAT in-game leader discussion is because he's done it with multiple rosters. Now all we're seeing is that there is only proof that Glaive has done it with one 4-man core, and now if you throw him with a random assembly of other players, he doesn't have that in him right now. Whereas Kerrigan has continued to innovate with different pieces again and again and again, and he's been the consistent factor in success. It's almost like Glaive has now shown that he's only worked in a perfect system where everybody was contributing in a very specific fashion.
Yeah, I mean, I know I have a little bit of insight about this, and I'm not going to say that anyone's wrong or right, but I know that, I mean, I think we all know that ENCE have been like fantastic for the last few years, right? They've been making a lot of good decisions. And I think what's happened in this team from a little bit of behind the scenes sort of stuff is that I think that Glaive and Cuban have not got along at all. They've not shared the same ideologies whatsoever. I'm not saying that one's right and one's wrong, but when you're in a team, if these two people in the team are not getting along, this is like your parents fighting. You're not going to be motivated to go out and do your homework and everything like this. It's like the worst thing possible. You need to be a rock in the team. This combination, I've seen it like firsthand as well when I've had it in my teams. When the disagreements are there and you can't agree on anything, you're not getting the best out of anyone. You're literally not getting the best out of anyone. You come out of every game with the wrong different conclusions all the time, and you can't put your finger on anything. You don't feel like you have each other's backs. The players don't feel like they understand what's going on with the system, who they're making mistakes for, who should they be following, who should they not be listening to. And it seems like Cuban, who's a very, very good coach, and Glaive was obviously being an outstanding game leader, one of the best of all time. Sometimes they just don't match. And I think when you're taking a coach, like we said earlier in the show, you don't know what you're getting with a coach because none of us are out there. None of the tournaments care about us. Nobody gets interviewed. I think we came final in a major, and I've had like two people ask me about it ever since then. Like, no one gives a shit. So obviously no one knows about it. And then when you take a chance on a coach, you go, who was the best tier 1 pro who's played or coached at the tier 1 level before? And that's why the same coaches are always at the top. That's the biggest crime I ever committed as a coach, is that I wasn't a tier 1 player. So I'll never probably get a chance like that to go on that level. And they've just had a combination that didn't work. And I think maybe Glaive isn't working, but give him a chance of another coach who maybe trusts him, and maybe probably see someone actually buying into his ideas. And maybe now this is the chance where you go, okay, now I can properly judge, is the last year down mostly to Glaive or the coach? But I think now this is, when it's like this, everyone loses out. Everyone loses out because they're not on the same page and they can't agree with each other for cultural reasons or whatever. And now I can't remember who the coach is, who they signed the other day. Maybe now this will be something that changes for them, and maybe they get the roster in that makes more sense and more balanced. I don't know if having 4 Polish people and a Danish person's helping dynamics at all. I would anticipate.
Oh, it was NKJ, the German guy. NKJ was who they signed.
Yeah, NKJ. I don't really know anything
guy.
about him.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about him really. So I guess now we're probably going to see more of Glaive's ideas. Obviously, they've sided with Glaive over Cuban for whatever reasons. And at the end of the day, what do you do as an organization? You can't tell. We're sat here talking about when we don't know as well, right? They're sat there. There's got same picture. They're just taking a risk, and they go, Glaive experience, we're going to back you on this one. I don't think Cuban's probably done anything wrong. It just doesn't work together. And when it doesn't work together, nothing's in sync. That's probably what's happened.
By the way, 2 things. One, I actually have another joke I forgot to make earlier, so I'll make it anyway, which was when you were describing about that whole thing, which obviously they just did it on Reddit the other day, didn't they, where it was like they were comparing in CS2 the animation time of like which frame it appears on when you shoot the guy versus CS2. That was one of those moments that made me realise that's how much I actually agree that CS2 is whack. Bro, we're like fucking mad conspiracy people, like watching frame by frame the Zapruder clip. Like, look, it's the Secret Service guy in the front. Look, go on frame 17. Look, like, what are we doing here? Like, because that's like, we're watching like, yeah, look on frame 7. Like, can't we just fix the game? Just make the game feel good again. What the fuck are you talking about? How deep are we going to go? So there's that. That just shows what we've been reduced to now, guys. Because we know something's wrong and Valve's just gaslighting us. Nah, it's pretty much the same, isn't it? I think we ported a lot of it over. Like, whatever. Anyway, that's one thing. I always love when the game dev gaslights me about the problems in the game that he created. But then on this actual topic of ENCE, right, actually what's funny is people are going to think, this is where people have always been wrong. If you actually asked me right now, I probably would still say Glaive's the GOAT CSGO IGL. Like, I built the case for Carrigan, I think, because my problem with this was I always thought it should be a conversation. I thought it's like when people, whoever they're a fan of Ronaldo or Messi, go, and the other one isn't even close. It's like, the whole point is they're obviously really close, you moron. They're both insanely good, and actually the discussion of which do you prefer is a really great discussion, isn't it? So for me, it always should have been like that with Glaive and Carrigan, especially because they took these different routes. So I'm not now going to take this moment to go, Glaive was proven to be a fraud the whole time. One, he couldn't be a fraud. The things he did, it's impossible to accomplish as a fraud. Now, you might want to go the angle Maui did there of like, but maybe it only worked with like Danish people, or maybe it needed very specific players. Look, we can't know that because we can't A/B test it. I actually think the biggest biggest sad thing entirely about Glaive's career is what you alluded to there, which is that when he joined this team, we thought we were going to get the chance to A/B test. We thought, right, perfect. He's going to take Snappy's old lineup, and we're going to see, after seeing what Snappy just did with it, maybe Glaive can do as well, which already would prove he's really good, or maybe he'll be even better, and we'll be like, he is my GOAT. You know what I mean? Like, that would have, by the way, think about how that would have kickstarted the whole discussion of him and Carrigan again in a different way if now he had success with the national team. That would have been an awesome narrative, right? The problem was, as we said, one, even the little time he played with that lineup, I actually do know behind the scenes, Ash, you are right. Those players already knew. Some of, if not all of us, are going either to Heroic or Falcons, and we're definitely not staying with Glaive. And luckily, though, I know also that Glaive came in knowing that was possible. He didn't really think he joined and he got Snappy's team and like he got ripped out under his last second of rug pulled. So it's not quite like that, but I will say the sad part is I actually would like to see that experiment run for real. I would actually like to see him have a real, actual, like a mouse-type roster, but with Glaive instead of shooting. I want to see that happen so I can actually see whether Glaive's good or not. Because I will say the eye test looks bad. Like, this isn't like when Alexi and Snappy were on like that good teams, but you could see like they're doing a pretty good job still though. But I'll say, if I'm going to defend Alexi B for all those years with whack rosters, bro, if you look at this roster right now, Goofy, Kyler, SDY and Poddy, if you give those to Alexi and the orgs called OG, wouldn't we all just be flaming the fuck out of OG right now and going, what's he supposed to do? Who's he supposed to win the major with? You know, we'd all say that, right? But for some weird reason, because ENCE has had that track record of getting undervalued players and being good, everyone's acting like it's Glaive and not these players. Like, I'm just going to say, I also did hear that if you had to gun to your head, say who actually did the scouting at ENCE, it was Snappy. It wasn't Saw and it wasn't the ENCE org, I've heard. I've heard it was Snappy. So I will say, one, you're not going to get those players again. You're not going to find the Maddens and those are the guys that you find and pick up some pies and that. Like, people have tried just doing the random pick a tier 2 player up. It doesn't work. They were the right tier 2 players to pick up that were fucking ready to be good already. So I already do think you haven't given him a good enough lineup here. I definitely agree on that one, by the way. This is why I always say Carrigan ruined international Counter-Strike, because he made people think you can really give someone 4 different nationalities and it just works because you're good. Like, bro, that's actually amazing that he made that work. And if you look at this, the idea you're going to take the most Danish IGL ever, give him a bunch of Polish players and a Polish coach and go, shouldn't be any problems there. Like, bro, there's no connection whatsoever. They don't even vaguely have the same way of looking at CS or thinking about CS. And I often think, by the way, what a mad angle that is, bearing in mind all the blame. This is the downside, actually, of the fact that the coach never gets the blame, Ash. No one is going, but it's probably bloody Cuban. In fact, people even forget Cuban just got fired and replaced. They just go, Glaive sucks, obviously. But I'll just add this as well. If I'm going to bring Glaive over, bro, the idea that the players are all the nationality of the coach, not my nationality. Well, I'm already at a disadvantage here, aren't I? Like, and also, he could literally just speak to them in Polish over there. I don't even know what they're talking about. I'm not saying that's some sinister thing. I'm just throwing it in there. That's another thing that makes you think, like, we're not really all part of the same group, are we? So, fuck knows what's going on with that. Then also, you've got the angle that because you're ENCE, you only got by on Mega Scouting. I'll say this for the millionth time. Can anyone tell me the time ENCE signed a really big player? I'll be waiting forever, mate. Never happened. So since ENCE isn't a team that goes out in the transfer market and spends millions, also, how are you supposed to change the morale? How am I ever supposed to believe this lineup's going to get better? Or even better, when I hear stories like, oh, blame F's out there. Oh, JKS, well, we're not getting them. I already know that. That ship sailed, mate. We're not signing them and giving them a 20k a month salary. Like, it's not even on the table, is it? So I also think what a bomber this whole environment must be. Like, I actually think the sad thing is, I just hope, essentially, it could be in this lineup. I just hope they give Glaive one real lineup. Give him one lineup of actual... By the way, give him people like Slen. Give him someone like that who can actually do it. And then, obviously, not in this literal case. That's just someone like that. But obviously, I want to actually see one of... Then, by the way, after that, if it doesn't work, okay, we can fucking take him behind the woodshed and go, it's all right, Glaive, look up there, mate. Remember, we'll have the rabbits, bro, and then we'll just fucking, retire him as it goes. We can also do that too. Right, there you go. That's the end of that rant.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.